So Kotlin WebAssembly. My name is Sitesh. I work at DG as a software engineer in Kotlin, and I'm also a GDG organizer, GDG Sydney. So let's start with it. So Kotlin has achieved his new target for bringing WebAssembly to the KMM platform. Little bit about Kotlin for like those who don't know. So Kotlin is a programming language. It's very concise and expressive, which means it takes all the boilerplates away from you and it applies this syntactic sugar and makes your code more concise and clean. It has seamless Java interoperability, which means you can use Java functions whenever necessary for the task which you actually need to, and all the packages which were made in Java can run in Kotlin. It's functional and object-oriented programming, and it follows object-oriented programming paradigms. It's also an official language for Android, and that's been officially said by Google, and it follows null safety. Moving on to KMM. So when KMM was announced, I was really excited because I started my journey with React, then moved on to Flutter, and then moved on to Kotlin. So everyone asks me this like common question, why the hell who even like moves from like Flutter to Kotlin? And I'm like, you don't know anything. So Kotlin Multiplatform supports iOS, Android, all the natives by covering web and desktop applications as well. So you can have a single code base and write your front-end logic and business logic and share it among, while still keeping the platform-specific functions. If you want to use iOS permissions, you can use it. And that's the beauty of KMM. You can still share your UI logic and business logic, and you can even use UI logic or like system permissions or something whenever like that is necessary or wherever they are necessary. Okay, WebAssembly. Have anyone tried WebAssembly before or have little bit knowledge of it? Yeah, just one.
Couple of articles, yeah.
I think everyone else loves JavaScript. Yeah, JavaScript. It's gonna be there. So WebAssembly is uses binary instruction format for stack-based virtual machine. What it means that whatever code you write generally get converted into like machine level code or like binary code, which is not the case for JavaScript. It's language agnostic, which means you can code WebAssembly using C, C++, Rust, and now Kotlin. It has secure sandbox execution because all the code which you write is actually converted into machine level language. You get a performance boost. Trust me, the sizes that you have are just amazing because I have seen this project which absolutely like get complex by adding your logics, then your different services, and you have this like massive file size and this performance hit. But that's not actually case with WASM. And it has interoperability with JavaScript. I should have practiced this word before. But you can use JavaScript wherever necessary and whenever necessary. That's another advantage of WASM. And here we have. So Kotlin WASM is the new target for our KMM compiler. It brings Kotlin and WASM together. So Kotlin WASM compiles Kotlin code directly to WebAssembly, a binary instruction format, machine level format, which I said, that can be run on any platform that supports WebAssembly. Chrome, Safari, and Firefox can now directly execute machine level and binary codes, which is like huge achievement and another step up for like browser for running this kind of tasks. This makes Kotlin WASM ideal for building web applications that needs to be fast, secure, and reliable. How they can be fast, I'll come to that later. But let's move ahead. So Kotlin and WASM also supports range of features such as classes, interface functions, coroutines, and more. Anything you have done in Kotlin, and if you love this architecture principles, then like using your classes, live data, any data object, you can do the same thing in WASM. And you would be like surprised that you are not actually writing a web-based code, but you are just writing or developing Android. It feels the same way. It makes it easy to build complex and sophisticated web applications using Kotlin WASM. That's true, and that's true because of the statement I told you previously. You can follow all the complex architectures that you're following right now to the app. You can build your repos out, you can build your middlewares out, you can have even refactored with different architectures whenever you want to try it, and it will just work. This Joshua thing is gonna hit me later, but I'm just gonna see. Yeah, Kotlin WASM. Okay. Faster compilation, garbage collection, small binaries, and shared logic. Why garbage collection? Let's get back to GCC++. Who all have faced garbage errors values while developing C and C++, or they like remember of Turbo C, anyone? Come on, raise your hands up. I want to see hands, Karthik.
Dev C++.
C++. No one else has done C?
Segmentation
Come on.
It's a PTSD thing for most of it.
So yeah, we should have garbage collection, and that's now in Chrome. Thank you, Chrome. But we have Cobweb, right? So have you guys used Cobweb or Kotlin JS before? Cobweb. So many of the people might not even know, but there is Cobweb, which is a framework, not developed by JetBrains, but it's a framework which lets you use Kotlin and Compose with JavaScript and make web applications. That was even before Kotlin JS was like introduced, and it's really awesome. And I think if you have not given it a try, you should at least try it. It leverages Kotlin and Compose, like I said. You can use side effects and Kotlin components. You can just create a web app, but imagine using launch effects and running any functions from your view model. It's just like, at this point, it's not even like any difference from what are you coding in Android, but there are like subtle or subtle differences that we need to consider. But everything apart from that is just same. It supports page routing and component-based architecture. So component-based architecture is what we use in Kotlin. We have composables, and we build UI and our views with help of that. And you can do the same with Cobweb. It has interoperability with JavaScript whenever necessary. That's a must regarding if you see heap of packages, libraries, dependencies, everything is like made with JavaScript, and you need it. Even like 100 or 200 years later, I can see JavaScript being used somewhere, and it's not gonna go. But then I just said that we had CoWeb. Then why do we need WASM? Why has Kotlin taken initiative of getting Kotlin WASM to our KMM platform? So first thing, it's threading. So if you don't know, browser and web apps actually consume more of your power and are kinda less in performance because they cannot utilize thread. So Kotlin and WASM web applications can use multiple threads to improve performance, which is not possible with JavaScript since it's like single threaded. If you guys are familiar with Kotlin, so we always have a UI thread and background thread, and that's how we get that native performance. I see you looking at pizzas.
I'm just wondering why they're bringing the pizza in.
Oh.
We can't even finish off the sandwiches.
Oh, that's the best sandwiches though. I don't think
And there seems to be one pizza per person. I know what, just wondering why
Google is generous.
they think we need fattening up like a Christmas turkey before they send us off to the slaughter.
I think it's here. Okay, but let's run out with the 4 points real quick and then come down with the second. My heart is telling me to go now, but like, I think. Second point. App size, binary language, binary level code, machine level code. Your app size has definitely been like shrink by like 3 times or 4 times. And that's really huge achievement, and I cannot like stretch much on this. Component model. So WASM Kotlin just brings up the things that CoWeb has, because that's the feature that Kotlin and Compose brings, right? You can get support for building all the interfaces or modules or reusable components that are necessary. And having reusable components is very necessary, because I have done React and I cannot emphasize enough on how much I loved reusable components and let's say Redux as well. These 2 things were starting at my stage where I started understanding what is an software architecture or software design and what is code reuse. So these were like kind of the first good code policy that I have learned on like my early stages. JSPI and stack switching. So Kotlin WASM supports JSPI, which allows you to call JavaScript code from Kotlin. This makes it easy to integrate with existing Java libraries. If you want to build massive projects, or let's say that Kotlin WASM is now in its experimental phase, and it goes in beta, alpha, and it might be released. That's a really good thing. I'm looking forward for it. And when it's released, and you have to use some libraries which you are already using, or some services that you have subscribed to, which provides you some kind of like interface or some kind of let's say middleware connection to some other platforms, you can still leverage that. But this thing where you can directly call a JavaScript code from Kotlin, it's also awesome. Then Kotlin WASM supports stack switching, which allows you to switch between different execution contexts. This can be used to implement features like nested asynchronous call. Yes, you can still do that. And moving on to next slide. I was gonna start explaining this, but I think if I do it, everyone would be angry on me. So let's have a break and get our pizzas. Someone asked me like what stage WASM is in. So let me tell you there are 3 stages: experimental, alpha, beta, and release. The thing with experimental is whenever there is a new library or new language out and it marks that experimental, it means that it can be scrapped out or it's meant to be changed completely. And you should not use it in your projects, not even personal projects, and like mostly keep it or like play it as you're playing with a toy. And that's what experimental means. But first and most important thing, you have to install Kdoctor. So it's Kotlin Doctor, and it will tell you that what are the requirement or prerequisites that you require to build a Kotlin or KMM application. So you need, most importantly, you need Java and your Java version sorted. Let me tell you, if you're not using Java environment, that should be your first priority and you should get it sorted, because just switching Java versions and downloading Java versions with Android Studio or your IntelliJ can help, but it's really better to have a Java environment. So you can have like different version of Java, and that's what actually helps you out when you have to try this beta and experimental features. Then you need to have Android Studio or IntelliJ by JetBrains. I use IntelliJ, and then Xcode installation, because your Xcode has Ruby if you're using Mac, and Ruby is gonna play a very important role, because Ruby and Cocoa pods are kind of these grains that makes this whole thing. So if you have all the things checked, it will say that your system is ready for Kotlin Multiplatform for mobile development. It's recommended that you hit all the check marks for KDoctor, but let's see how we go.
Does VS Code also support this or not?
VS Code, I think you can create it from terminal. You can create an app from terminal, but you at least need to have this requirements. So these requirements are like Backbone or the supporting frameworks which generate your files whenever like you build it or you create a new project. And if you don't have this, you might face configuration issues, or we refer to it as environment issues whenever like you are building some alpha or experimental features. Garbage flags, garbage flags. So I just forgot to mention the URL, but if you go to Kotlin WASM, they'll have a Chrome URL, which after you pasting in Chrome will make this flag highlight, which is WebAssembly garbage collection. Since it's a machine level binary code, you need garbage collector to like collect all the garbage values. Then once you have enabled it, I have used IntelliJ. So you have to go to registry. So for someone who doesn't know what is registry or have not used registry before, you just go to your file-based search. You access it by hitting Shift key twice, and then it will bring up a search box where you are gonna type registry, and you will find registry followed by two dots. You click it, it's gonna open all your registry values. If you have played with Windows, Windows has registries. These are like key configurations which are responsible for making your defaults and everything work. So you kind of need to do the same for IDE as well. You can see we have Kotlin WASM wizard, which is disabled by default. You have to enable it, and then you have to give it a restart. After restarting, you can create a new project. So when you create a new project, you can see these options. There is Kotlin Multiplatform, Compose Multiplatform, and all the other things. If you want to try web, JavaScript, and Compose, you can actually go to Compose Multiplatform and select web option. But we are interested in WASM. So we'll go to Kotlin Multiplatform, name the project, we'll say we need a browser application with Kotlin WASM. I'm using the version of Java which is Java 18, and we'll get to their why as of in like few seconds. And if that's there, then ta-da. Oh, that's probably a little small, but you can see this is generated. I have like the zoomed in images, which I'll show you. But for now, after running it, you can see the hello world program, which is generated completely via WASM. And this is a build.gradle file. So default file looks something like this. You have plugin, you have multi-platform version, which is 1.9.0. You have to make sure that your Kotlin version is 1.9.0. You have to update your Kotlin for it. If you don't have 1.9.0, it's not gonna work. Then you have your repositories. So repositories is something where you actually go and fetch your packages. Like we use CDN in JavaScript. So you have those CDN URLs. So in Kotlin, we have something like that. We call it repositories. And it connects to the Maven Central CDN and downloads all the dependencies which you have mentioned or you are required in the structure. Then you see we have nothing but it just says WASM binary executable because it generates binary code. And we have source sets and no dependencies at all. And this is what you get to see whenever there is a new technology out. We have mentioned using side effects. We have mentioned using Android X. We have mentioned using Compose, but you can find nothing here. And if you have like set up Android Studio project or Kotlin project, you know that it's at that stage that these things already like fill up in your build.gradle file, but that's not the case here. So what can we achieve with this? So this is a file which is just generated solely by me running or creating a new project. But let's go back a bit. This is the only thing you can achieve. You can still make data classes. You can use map function, combine function, everything else, but you cannot use Compose for now, unless and until you import it. So anything you want to do with Kotlin, you can do it here. And this is also amazing, which lets you like have all this Kotlin basics or like say Kotlin spreadsheet which you can generate in WASM and just like try out all the things which you can do Kotlin. But you can also see here that for now, since I don't have Compose installed, we can still use the JavaScript interoperability function that I talked about. So what I'm doing is I'm accessing the document's body, and then I'm appending text, and I'm calling the Kotlin function inside. So this is how you can directly call JavaScript functions and run Kotlin functions inside it. Yep. But being developers, all we love is happy path, isn't it? We just want like to build project and everything work and not break. But that's not reality. So like before going into what I did for getting at that stage, if anyone wants to like try Cobweb, I have the getting started command sorted out here. So you just Brew install it, then you unzip it, you add it to path, you make sure that your Cobweb is installed correctly, then you just create. And Cobweb will give you like many examples. So you can have a compose-based examples or anything else, which directly gives you a compose code. And my point of mentioning Cobweb here was to show you the difference between what an experimental version is and what other versions which are released are. So you can directly see that with Cobweb we could get like Compose template directly out of it, but as of now for WASM we cannot do that. So yep. Do we have merge
Merge.
or swags?
No.
No? But yeah, question though, if anyone can get this right, we'll have like merge next time and we'll make sure that will get to you when you attend the next GDG meetup.
We'll make a note.
So can someone spot what is wrong with this? I know it's too small. Can someone spot?
Maybe it's missing a semicolon.
Nah, there's nothing wrong with program. I have highlighted what's wrong, but what exactly is wrong? If someone has used Gradle,
The extension.
Kazakh,
They used the wrong version.
nah, I don't know.
The folder name. W.
We are missing Gradle W file. So Gradle W is necessary for you to run your all the things, and this is what happens whenever like you have wrong configurations or wrong
Can I
environment.
ask a follow-up question?
Mhm.
Okay. Who knows what Gradle W is? I won't be taking this swag, don't worry. And why do you need it? Okay.
So you can win some merge.
Well, that's half the answer, yes.
So it's a wrapper between Android and Gradle.
Not quite.
Because W is like
This is like a running script because
Yeah.
like there's a Gradle daemon, and then like if you open it, it's just like a huge shell
runs.
script which kind of like runs all the stuff.
Yeah, that's precisely it. Instead of installing the whole Gradle build system onto your Mac and then sacrifice your SSD, just install the Gradle wrapper, so it wraps it around the Gradle system that you would need and installs the right parts, and that's it. So you will get a swag next time.
But yep, we are missing that. But I just told you that I have done kdoctor correct. I have installed all the plugins. I have followed everything that WASM told me to do. And I cannot run it because you don't have a Gradle W file. So no matter what you do, you cannot run it because the run command just says Gradle W WASM run. And I don't have Gradle W. So at this time, what would you do? Have like anyone like had this issue before that you have a file generated or you have your projects generated, but you are missing some files. So what is the usual thing that a developer does?
I mean, for that file, we can just copy it over from somewhere else. Because what it does, it just calls daemon, which is installed as a system service. Or, I mean, like, just external dependency, which get referenced.
I'm really happy that I'm not the only guilty one. So you hack into it. So what you do was just go to like the examples which are there on Kotlin's GitHub. You take the missing files, you just copy pasta it. Here are the Kotlin examples. These are really awesome examples. Although the Compose image viewer and Compose chat snack still uses JavaScript a little, but you should like probably scan this code and take a look at some like WASM examples. So you can see all this launch effects view models running together with WASM if anyone wants to. So I'll just give you a brief overview. The browser example is like the basic example which just has hello world or like Kotlin text, and it will just display that, more like the hello Siddesh that we just saw. Compose based image viewer actually has images in grid, which is displayed by using Compose. And Compose Jet Snack is kind of a e-com app without checkout where you can add these snacks to your cart, and then you can probably view and get detailed view of a product. They're not so helpful, but it's still good. Because when we see this like apps that are actually used with JavaScripts as well, because like I mentioned, like you still have that interoperability, and your WASM examples were just like few of them, which I found on community Slack, which I'll let you know within a minute. But hacking into it is not always right. So let's see what mistakes I did and how do I rectify them. First, environment setup. I was supposed to use Ruby 2.7 because anything else than that would break it. So I installed Ruby environment. Then I installed Ruby 2.7. I tried using Java 19. Then I tried using Java 11. Java 11 is legacy. I love it. It's not, but
So
then.
why do you need the Ruby?
Mhm.
Why do you need the Ruby?
Because Ruby in Mac, Ruby is responsible for like getting Cocoa pods, and Cocoa pods it's completely based on Ruby.
But I think the 3.0.3 also work
For WASM,
for Cocoa Pod.
Cocoa pods, yeah, but I think WASM requires the specific files and specific versions because it's an experimental. Yeah, it does. It's kind of tricky, but it does, and you can see the community Slack, which everyone has like same sort of complaint. But that's acceptable, right? Because it's an experimental version. It's not even like meant for being used in your personal projects. It's like, hey, consider it as toy. It's like very experimental. If it runs, that's good. If it does not runs, you learn something new. But using Java version 18 and Ruby 2.7 actually helped me generate the Gradle files. And this was not on this MacBook. I had my MacBook Air. I had to use that. There was something definitely going on with the environment in this one, which kind of holded me back. Then Compose version. So it's 1.4.0 Dev WASM 06. And like I said, Kotlin compiler version we need to use is 1.9.0 to support this experimental features. Then you have to make changes in your files. So there was just a single line when this file was generated, which was Kotlin code style official. Let's not look at JVM args XMX3G, but let's look at the Android X. So for enabling Android X support, you have to set the flag as true. And for specifying AGP version, you have to mention it in your Gradle properties. But I just wanted to ask someone who is like a senior developer or someone who is like an experienced developer in Kotlin or Java, have they ever used this flag, which is org.gradle.jvmargs xmx3g, and why it's used? They're not allowed to answer.
It tells like it's a set of for 3 gigs of memory to allocate for JVM for heap size or something like that. So there is a XMS X and X something else. So it's kind of like a minimum and maximum. So that's basically allocating like a more memory or specific amount of memory for the for JVM to run.
That's absolutely correct, and that's absolutely detailed. This is because so this flag was not there, right? And if you are a new developer, you are just trying this, and if you don't have this flag, your program won't compile. It will just say that, hey, we just ran out of heap space. And I'm like, I just had a text widget saying hello world, and you just ran out of heap space. That's amazing. So you have to dig a little, and then you find that, oh, I have not set this flag. So you set that flag. So build.gradle. So you saw the file which I showed you before, the Gradle file. It was not much, but that's gonna increase by thrice after this. And that's what we need to do. So first of all, our multi-platform version needs to be specified, that's specified. Then we are using a Compose version as 1.4.0, WASM 09. Then repositories where we have to fetch our CDN from. So we are using Google, JCenter, Gradle plugin properties, Maven Central, then Compose, and WASM experimental. After adding repositories and plugin, you add the dependencies. So there are source sets, and you have a main dependency and your WASM dependency. There is also a common dependency if you have a multi-platform based application and you need to have a dependency which you can use commonly between all your apps. You can mention it in your common main. And if you have a platform specific dependency, like I have WASM installed right now, so it will have this WASM main where you can specify WASM specific dependencies. So that's why you can see anything which ends with WASM is in this WASM main dependencies. So if you have a KMM project which actually has Android, iOS, you'll have this separate dependencies. Likewise, I told you, whenever you need to access some platform specific features or implementations or libraries, you can still access it by using KMM. And yep, so we got our source sets and dependencies all correct. Then we mentioned that our Compose experimental part, we have our Compose plugins versions, which is the compiler versions again, and then our arguments that we require to suppress the capability check, which is 1.9.0. And then that's done. But then if you have your project and environment set up correctly, you'll have access to all this commands, Gradle commands, which you can just click on to run it. But either ways, fun fact, if you see these names, you can just like run them by /Gradle W followed by the name. So if you find some errors which are not covered in your Gradle file, you can just use /Gradle W followed by that command to execute that command. Generally, your terminal throws out an appropriate error that you are facing, and you can solve it. But we usually need clean WASM run, yarn setup, yarn install, and npm install one, which is not currently. Yep, there is Kotlin npm install. We are using npm as well as yarn here, if you guys have noticed. Hey, so what I tried. This is a thing that worked for me, which is I created a platform item. I actually started React with developing e-commerce application. So when I started React, I developed e-commerce application, and I did that same for Flutter as well. So I was actually interested in like getting not a complete e-com application, but at least adding to cart, because we have this mutable live data, everything, and I was excited for it, but I tried this one. You can see that we have a data class, and then I can still use the map function, and then I can access the each item, and then I can assign it. And that kind of throws a list or like just text which says WASM Android and iOS. But that's all about me trying Kotlin with WASM. And then it comes to Compose. So we can say one of the challenges if you have to use Compose is kind of resizing of the browser, because your mobile doesn't resize, right? And whenever like your app is running, if you see that whenever you rotate your phone, if you don't handle it, your app is actually gonna crash if someone does not know. Who have actually faced this issue? Like whenever you change the screen orientation, your app has crashed and you didn't know about it, but you realized it later.
Unless you handle it from the beginning.
So that's there, and that's why we use something called as canvas-based window. And canvas-based window actually renders your compose things in here. But I was onto this stage, and then I was running it, and then I realized that my heap is full, and I was like, okay, might be something wrong with card item, just like use text, and then I was like, oops. Then I read it carefully, and I was like, okay, gotcha. I added the flag, and surprisingly, it did not run. So even after trying all this, I could run the WASM part, but I could not make it to Compose. And it's not only me, there are like a lot of other developers which are facing the same issue. And if you try it and you are having that hopes, because you see this amazing projects, trust me, there are amazing projects on GitHub which you can see right now, which are using Kotlin WASM, and they have their environment like perfectly set up and everything running from it, and the things they do are amazing. People have started building your markdown to compose converter. Someone has built an svg to composable, so you just put an svg image and it returns a composable for it. And people are doing these things with WASM, but many of them cannot get this thing. And the issue I was facing was called as Kia library. If someone has used Kia, it's used in Canvas, which I just showed you, which is responsible for rendering your compose in WASM, composables in WASM, and that was not working. But I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have the composed implementation pretty soon, and we'll go through it for the next one. But shout out to community. If you have not scanned any of this QR code, but you are an Android developer or Kotlin developer, I highly suggest you to scan this. This is the Slack channel for Kotlin. You can find WASM and all the Kotlin related things here. And you can find the issues with experimental builds or new builds that people are facing here and discussing here. If not for community support, I could not have even sorted out the environmental issues. So I highly recommend joining the Slack of Kotlin and engaging with community. I also like to shout out to my work colleague Michael. He actually helped me with debugging and setting environment issues, which I could not solve. And here is one project I like, which is Kotlin, and this is built with Kotlin WASM, if someone wants to check it out. And thank you. Open for questions.
I have a quick question. So you kind of present like two different approaches. So one is kind of I would say native to browser, right? When you are appending to the body, and this is what any framework does, like React or Angular, they're working directly with the DOM, just manipulating it, right? And another one is just like the same approach as was taken on the Android, iOS. So basically, there is something with a custom renderer, and then you render it. Flutter is doing the same thing. So it's basically just like a single, kind of canvas, and then you just do some rendering of something which looks like native components, but it's not native components. And with the first approach, when you directly manipulate the DOM, either the library that you mentioned, the core web, does like a kind of like a normal things, like it can render tables for you, can organize it in between, can just create like a DOM structure for you that you can manipulate in a Kotlin, or like there is no such thing. You have to work with a basically body and appending text all the time. So like you've added hello world to the body. Can you do a table? Can you do a link?
Yeah.
Can you do?
Yeah.
Okay. In Kotlin.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I mean not writing like kind of append text, but rather like using.
You can
some sort
if
of
you have
classes.
set up this environment properly, you can directly use Compose. I tried it a lot. I found like other examples as well. I might like share one example which is like quite funny, and I might bookmark it, and I want to replicate it because this is like early stage of WASM, and it says that it's not supported on Safari, and it just runs on Google Chrome whenever like your garbage flag is like turned on. It's deployed to Netlify, and Netlify will just say that hey, this thing does not run on like Safari. It will just throw out error, and then you have to like switch to Google Chrome. But and that example is really simple. There was a card made. Card had a photo, and it had the like button, and if you click it, just highlighted it. That's all. But that was purely based on Compose and WASM. No JavaScript at all,
When you say
or
com-
no
when you say com-
interacting with DOM elements.
But is there any libraries interacting with the DOM elements?
Might be under the hoods. I'll have to like experiment on that.
But the first example before the compose, was it about interacting with the DOM elements or not? That's kind of my
Yeah,
question.
this was interacting with DOM elements. Yep.
That's this one. And do you have a libraries which can like make it easier instead of writing like a tags like a table something? Do they give you some sort of like a classes to kind of to operate with, like a table cells?
That might be done, but we have Compose here, right? And you can still make.
which is like early stages and not kind of.
I would not use HTML and CSS if I had Compose. I just love Compose so much. But yeah, you can actually make that. But I think if there is Compose, I would never go like document dot da da da. I have seen like other things as well. Ooh, might be modifier. So I did not recognize that I have used modifier here, but other people were facing issues when they had modifier in. But I tried it with like just text widget without modifier, and it still did not work. But for using modifier as of now, so modifier is something which we give our basic widgets you call it in Flutter, but our basic UI components, the properties like what I want the padding to be, what I want its size to be, or rounded corners or etc. But I think even modifiers right now were issue for like some people's when I ran over the community Slack. I'm just eagerly waiting for the next version to see if the issue fixes, or until that I'm still gonna try to fix it because I just want to. I just like when you see something and this thing resembles to me a lot. So it's just from your inside that you want this to work, and when it works, it's more of like magic, and it's magic because you love this all the architecture, your composables, utilizing thread thing, and you can actually practice that and do that in web.
What's the file size of your hello world target?
Oh, I'm not sure, but like when other examples, it was around 3 kilobytes or something. It was really less. Any other questions? So, like being honest, who's thinking of trying Kotlin WASM?
Not really.
You told us not to.
I told us you should have fun. You'll definitely have fun. I think you should give it a try.
Maybe if it's alpha.
Okay, that's fair point. I'll give it to you. Thank you so much.